You mentioned that you operate by a corporate ethics code, right? Is that ethics code, talk to me a little bit about that ethics code.
Tribune has had an ethics code going back decades. It is a code of conduct that all of our employees are required to read, know, and understand. The company itself has a set of values that guide our decision making, and those values get periodically reviewed to see if they need to be updated, to see if they need to be changed. The code of conduct at a certain level is something that the officers of the company and everybody, I believe, from manager on up, has to be trained in, has to do some online training, and has to physically acknowledge that they've done the training and have signed off on becoming familiar with the code. So we take it very seriously. And then on top of that, each of our individual business units, especially in our newsrooms, they have a separate code of ethics that governs the specifics of how they go about reporting, how they go about putting things in the newspaper, putting things online, et cetera. And all of those employees have to be familiar with the code, have to abide by the code, have to sign the code. So we approach it from several different standpoints. There's like I said, a code of conduct for your behavior, and there's a code of conduct that guides the actions of our reporters and editors and producers.
You think codes are effective?
I think the short answer is yes, I do. I think, though, that anybody that wants to act in an unethical fashion is not going to be deterred by the fact that there's a code that exists. But I do think that they have, above and beyond their effectiveness with an individual employee, I think they have a way of binding together the group itself in pursuit of a common goal or cause. And I think that's important. And I think that's what brings a sense of purpose, however loose it may be, to the group as a whole, and helps guide them. And for instance, in our code, you are as responsible for seeing someone else doing something unethical and reporting it as you are for monitoring your own conduct. So this is not just a matter of, well, I have to act in an ethical fashion. I have to report violations of the code that I observe. So I think it's effective in those ways.
Is there much difference in your mind, or should there be much difference between the code of ethics that a public relations practitioner might sign and that of a journalist? Well, we have two different codes. I mean, the journalist is going to sign a code of ethics that is promulgated by the newsroom. I'm going to sign, and he'll sign the company's code of ethics. I'm going to sign the company's code of ethics, and I'm going to be familiar with the company's code of ethics. I think the journalist has to be concerned about and thinking about when he's going to grant somebody anonymity, how you're going to source a story, how many sources there need to be in a story for it to be credible to be put online or in the newspaper. I think there are different things that govern each profession. There are certain commonalities. I mean, I would not want to be writing the CEO's blog, and posing as the CEO, or responding to questions that we might get from employees as the CEO. So I think there are certain commonalities, and same type of thing that would go on with a reporter. What education and/or professional experience do you think best prepares a practitioner for the rigors of ethical decision making? I think that the best training that people can get is to get a good education and to know how to write and to be what I would call
a citizen of the world and to be an active citizen of the world, so that you know about current events, you know about what's going on around you, what's going on in your community, you know what's going on in your state, in the larger community in which you're a player, and that you're able to speak conversantly about the important issues of the day. I think getting a good liberal arts education is important to help people frame their decision making. And then in terms of the decision making itself, I think you have to be, I think it helps to be surrounded by people who are living ethical professional lives, and to see the code of conduct that they're living by, that they're conducting their professional lives by, and to be associated with a firm or a company that has a code of conduct. You know, I think it says something to walk into a firm and say, well, okay, what are the firm's values? What is this company's values? What's the mission statement? How do people relate to each other? I think all of those things help make the process of making ethical decisions easier and better for an individual if you can see around you others making similar decisions and how they go about doing it.
You've talked about working with folks in terms of improving their writing, and you've talked a little bit about mentoring, and I guess my question is, can you mentor ethical decision making?
Oh, I think you can. I think that's what I said, what I meant earlier when I said I think you have to be around people who are modeling ethical behavior. And I think it begins with the youngest person on your staff. They have to see how decisions get made. It has to be somewhat transparent, and they have to believe in the ethics behind the decision that you're making. And it has to be within a consistent framework of ethical behavior. If you're constantly making decisions on a case-by-case basis, some of which kind of tread into the gray area, some of which aren't so gray, and some of which are just wrong, there's no consistency to it, and there's no consistency both of the decision making or of the ethical nature or the ethical underpinnings of that decision. And so I think you can, I think you can help mentor younger people into making ethical decisions. You do it with an ethics code, a code of conduct, with values. It's not any one thing. It's a combination of things. It's, you know, values, codes, behavior, reinforcing those things. It's seeing how people who break the code are disciplined. All those things, I think, go into helping people make ethical decisions.